Welcome to Headline Lies. I'm Alexis Knight, and on this Friday, we are breaking down the biggest stories you thought you understood. From a midnight bill that's setting the stage for 2025 chaos to a diplomatic shooting in D.C. that was not random at all. We're cutting through the clickbait and laying out the truth. Let's get into it. And let's start with this headline here. House Republicans pass Trump's big bill after all-night session. All right? This headline sounds dramatic. Midnight voting, razor-thin margins, and the Democrats walking out like they were too offended to even play ball. Now, actually, before I go any further, a reminder, we don't take sides on this podcast. Just reporting. Doesn't matter what side you're on, this is just what's going on. And that's how it is here. But okay, this headline here, it's being fed to you. It's making this look like it's a chaotic stunt, like it's just performative politics, like we see all the time, right? Just another DC mess, just another empty win for a party looking to make noise. What did it say to people? What does the media want it to tell you? Well, for one thing, it wants you to think this was reckless, that the GOP forced through a budget disaster in the middle of the night, bypassing reason and steamrolling consequences. They want you to think it is heartless, regressive, slashing safety nets, handing out tax breaks to billionaires, and sending poor families into the dirt. That is the perception they planted with a single sentence. House Republicans passed Trump's big bill after all-night session. You have to remember all these headlines are carefully thought out, and every one of them is strategic. But here is the real story. It was not chaos, but it was choreography. This bill is the structural foundation of Trump's second term domestic agenda, and it is very much by design. Now, let me break it down. 1, it locks in permanent extensions of the 2017 Trump tax cuts. It adds work requirements for Medicaid, essentially saying no work, no coverage. It includes a full stop on student loan forgiveness. I'm talking no exceptions. And it guts the IRS. It pulls billions out of enforcement and narrows its scope. This is not a symbolic move. This is a strategic play. And whether or not you agree with it, you need to understand it's what's happening here. This is not about drama. It is about control. Control over spending, control over messaging, control over what this country looks like, say 4 years from now. Well, let's say 4 years from now. And here's what no one's saying out loud. This bill is a test of loyalty inside the Republican Party. Who is on the Trump train and who's pretending? It's also a messaging launch, teeing up every right-wing podcast, every Fox News hit, every campaign speech to come. Because if you don't see that this bill is about more than money, you're kind of missing the point. Now, here comes the spin. Get ready for the headlines calling it cruel and reckless and heartless. So you could kind of say, I'm catching this one before all the headline lies really start rolling out, so that maybe people can be aware this time and stop following their agenda. Okay? They're going to say tax cuts for billionaires and poverty for the rest. I mean, that's the slogan. They're warming it up right now. But this bill wasn't passed in the dark. It was passed in public in front of all of us with a purpose. It is really the clearest signal yet that Trump's second term is not going to be reactive. And it isn't so far. It's going to be aggressive. Have you seen it? And this is how it starts. Strip the funding, slash the spending, starve the systems, then say, look, it's broken, and then rebuild it how you need to. So although this headline is technically true, it did leave out the only part that mattered. This bill is the blueprint. And the backlash? It's already being written. It's coming. You can wait for it, but do not fall for it. I'm telling you ahead of time. Watch it for yourself. Watch the whole thing play out. Just watch the headlines. All right, next up. Here's your headline. Pro-Russian former Ukrainian politician shot dead outside Madrid school. Okay? What did this tell people? Well, it said that a controversial figure with ties to Russia was gunned down in a foreign country, suggesting perhaps a random act of violence or personal vendetta. But what is the real story here? Well, Andriy Portnov wasn't just an ex-politician. He was a central figure in Ukraine's political landscape, serving as a senior aide to former President Viktor Yanukovych. Portnov was deeply involved in the legal machinations during the 2014 Euromaidan protests, crafting laws aimed at suppressing dissent. Now, post-2014, he faced allegations of corruption and was sanctioned by the U.S. in 2021 for undermining judicial reforms in Ukraine. On May 21st, right now in 2025, Portnov was assassinated outside the American School of Madrid after dropping off his children. Multiple gunmen shot him in the back of the head before fleeing into a nearby wooded area. Spanish authorities are investigating the murder with suspicions pointing towards a professional hit, possibly linked to his political past. Now, what's the fallout of something like this? Well, this assassination is not an isolated incident. Be aware. It is part of a disturbing pattern where individuals connected to the Russia-Ukraine conflict are being targeted abroad. The killing of Portnov raises questions about the reach of political retribution and the safety of exiled figures. As investigations continue, the international community is watching closely, and you should too, that this could signify a broader escalation in the shadowy conflicts playing out beyond the borders of Ukraine and Russia. This wasn't just a murder in Madrid. This was a message. When politics turn lethal and the hits go international, nobody is out of reach, not even on a quiet street outside a private school. This is what happens when shadow wars stop playing by borders. It's what I'm trying to explain. So if you think this story isn't really your story, I want you to think again. Because when law, power, and revenge start traveling together, you don't have to be in Ukraine to feel the fallout. Moving on. Headline number 3. 3 dead in Australia after torrential rain ravages rural towns. Now, here's one I'm giving you, not because it's dominating your feed, but because this subject is about to. And when it does, if you listen to this, you're going to be ahead of the game. Because the headlines, a lot of them, are not going to tell you the truth. They're going to give you fear. They're going to give you blame. But they are not going to give you the facts. Now, the headline, 3 dead in Australia after torrential rain ravages rural towns. That part is true, okay? The flooding was brutal. If you haven't heard about it, check it out. New South Wales got slammed. Rivers overflowed. People were airlifted off rooftops. Entire roads disappeared. Over 50,000 people were stranded. Power out, 4 dead, 1 missing. No one is denying the damage here. But that's not what this segment is about. This right here is about what's going to come next. The narrative. I'm giving you another chance to understand what's about to happen so that when you see it, hopefully you don't have to fall for it. What this opens the door to, and what you're going to hear about, is that climate change has officially arrived. All right? And that this is absolutely your fault. You did this. That you, me, and your neighbor, and your car, your thermostat, everything we do has caused this. and that unless we radically change every single thing about our lives, the world is going to drown. Okay, get rid of your gas ovens, get rid of electricity, period. How about that? And just stop driving and eating. I mean, that's the drumbeat, and it's going to get louder. And I'm here to give you the warning. Here is the real story of what's going on. Yes, climate change is real. I would never say it isn't, but it just isn't as simple as it seems to be every time the headlines use that term, climate change. What hit Australia was a low-pressure system it's the kind that's existed for millennia, okay? It moves slowly, it carried heavy moisture, and then it dumped hard. Now, because the atmosphere is warmer, this is true, it held more moisture. So yes, that intensified the rainfall, but that doesn't mean that you caused it. I mean, what nobody talks about, I have, is that the Earth's climate changes. Just like us, we change, everything changes. And the Earth changes like it always has. There is solar activity, ocean currents, volcanic patterns. I mean, these things shift and evolve, and they cycle. We're living on a dynamic planet, not a thermostat, okay, guys? And yes, humans contribute to warming, but not all of it, and definitely not all at once. So when you hear them say, this is proof that we are killing the planet, all right, it scares you. It makes you feel bad. And we feel guilty for all the bad things we ever did in our whole lives, all of a sudden in 1 minute. But that is not science talking to you. That's spin, okay? Watch what happens next. Okay, because this is what's going to happen. Australia's flood story is going to become a talking point, not a tragedy. Just watch how they do it. They're going to tell you this is why you need to pay more and drive less, eat differently, and vote this way. The guilt will be packaged up and served to you as climate responsibility. How about that? But what they're really doing is weaponizing the weather and getting you to do something they want you to do. You don't need to deny climate change to call out these lies. The lie is that this flood was purely man-made, that we can legislate the skies and the atmosphere, that human guilt is the solution to natural cycles. Or maybe it's just the way to more dollars. So remember this one, okay? Because you are going to see more of it. It's been kind of quiet, but just wait. And now, hopefully, you just won't fall for it. All right, next up, 2 Israeli embassy staffers shot outside D.C. Jewish Museum. Now, here's another one I'm giving you, not because the press got it wrong, but because they are about to bury it. And you need to see the pattern because it's not random. This headline, it sounds like a tragedy, right? 2 people gunned down in broad daylight, downtown Washington, D.C., and you'd expect national outrage. But what you got was a whisper, and what you did not get was the truth. Now, this headline, what it told everyone was that this was another senseless act of violence, that it happened to involve Israeli citizens, but that the motive was still a mystery. You know, maybe the shooter was mentally ill. Maybe it was random. Maybe it was just another shooting in a violent city. I mean, that is the spin. They're slipping in between the lines. But don't let them. But what's the real story? Well, Yaron and Sarah were both staffers at the Israeli embassy. They were not in uniform, not in security detail, and not involved in any confrontation. They were leaving a private event at the Capital Jewish Museum. This was not a coincidence. This was a location loaded with symbolism. The shooter, 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez, waited. Witnesses say he targeted them. He didn't rob them. He didn't run. And when he was arrested, he chanted, "Free Palestine." Online, he posted anti-Israel rhetoric for months. No criminal record, no gang ties, just deep, focused hate. And now 2 diplomats are dead in the middle of the Capitol. at a Jewish landmark. And the media, they're already sanitizing it. Why do they do this? Why now? I mean, why? Well, because calling it what it is, a premeditated anti-Semitic execution, would force conversations nobody in power wants anybody to have, about rising anti-Semitism, about the consequences of inflamed rhetoric, and about how far it's gone when diplomats can be targeted on U.S. soil. And just like we saw with Portnov, the assassination in Madrid, when politics turn violent, the media, it turns quiet. Watch it for yourself. These are not disconnected events. They are symptoms of a global unraveling. And you're hearing about it right here. And the lie is that these are random. The lie is that we don't know the motive. The lie is that it won't happen again. These weren't victims of DC crime. These were targets in a proxy war on American ground. And if we don't name it, we can't stop it. The public is being softened, all right, lulled into thinking that this violence is just the price of modern life, I guess. But it is not random. This is timed, calculated, and symbolic. And if we keep reading headlines instead of facing the truth, the next one won't surprise us, okay? It's going to cost lives. All right, next up, retail giant to shutter 100 plus stores in cost-cutting move. The headline sounds clinical. Cost-cutting move? Just another corporate pivot? But let's not lie to ourselves, okay? This isn't about strategy. This is about survival. This headline told people that the company's just making smart financial decisions, that this is routine and normal, maybe even healthy. They're going to use buzzwords, right? Like streamlining operations or focusing on digital and realigning physical assets. We hear that stuff all the time. Let me translate that for you. They are bleeding out, and they hope you don't notice. What's the real story here? Well, another major retailer, whether it's Rite Aid, Walgreens, Foot Locker, Macy's, Bed Bath & Beyond, we're seeing it. Shutting locations like they're erasing a presence. And every time a store closes, it's not just a storefront that disappears. It's a job, a lifeline. It's a cornerstone of an American neighborhood. And it's always in the same places, right? Have you noticed? Working class suburbs, small towns, strip malls, already half dead. The places where people still go inside to buy shampoo and socks, because not everyone can afford to live online. This isn't just retail adapting. This is a slow-rolling collapse of middle-class infrastructure. That's the truth. No jobs, no access, no foot traffic. Then the crime creeps in. Then property values drop and people move. And the politicians will call it restructuring. The media doesn't say collapse because that would cause panic. They say optimization so that maybe you're excited instead. But what's optimized is the distance between you and basic survival. Are you picking up on that? And if you think it's about just one company, like, oh, whoops, my favorite, this, look around. Pay attention. This is not just about Rite Aid. It's about what is disappearing before your eyes and what is going to disappear next. You heard it here. Well, let's move on to my final headline today. We should pay attention to this one. All of them, right? But here it is. Crime is out of control in American cities. This one is everywhere. You've had to have seen it. You hear it on cable news. You see it in your feed. You feel it every time someone locks their car or crosses the street kind of fast. But let's be honest. Do you, I'm talking to you, know any of the numbers for real? For yourself? Because this headline told people that America is really sort of spiraling into lawlessness. cities are war zones, and that it's worse now than ever before, and it is getting worse every single day. This is a go-to political tool. Tough on crime, it wins elections. Fear keeps viewers watching, and ratings love panic. I mean, we play right into this every single day. But the reality is that some crime is up and some crime is actually down. And almost none of it fits into any sort of America is collapsing narrative that's being pushed out there. If you haven't seen it yet, you probably will. Facts are murder rates are down, okay, in most major cities as of this year, 2025. Property crimes and car thefts are up, but that trend has been happening since the pandemic, and that's a big beast to stop. Don't think it's just happening now. Look around. This has been around for a while. Mass shootings get covered relentlessly, right? But day-to-day violence, that is statistically stable in many regions. Listen to what happens. I mean, what's changed is not always the crime itself. It's the coverage. Think about your news channel that you love. They can't cover everything. Why do they choose what they choose out of everything to tell you? I mean, when crime is not up, they just amplify the worst story of the week. Check it out for yourself. If it bleeds, it leads because it sells. And the public, I mean, come on. The public reacts based on fear, not facts. Facts are boring. You want to know if you should be terrified or not. That's what you really care about. You want to know if it affects you. That's it, and they know it. They do it because fear is profitable. They already know you. Fear is political. It keeps people distracted and emotional, and let's get real, tribal. You bring up those emotions, and I mean, people are going to fight for it. Like something comes out in them. They're going to do it or die, but they don't even know the facts, and it's a big waste of energy. I mean, fear is the most valuable currency in modern media today. Know this. They'll show you a violent clip with no context. They'll throw numbers at you, but there's no baseline. So what do the numbers mean? They'll flash words like surge or epidemic or chaos. But then they don't really show you the data. Why is that? Because if you really knew the truth, you'd just stop watching the news. You'd stop voting based on panic, and you'd stop being so easily manipulated. Crime is real. The coverage, that's the crime you're not really supposed to notice. They're not just reporting on fear, they are manufacturing it. And if you don't learn to ask the second question, you're going to keep buying that first lie. And so there it is. I gave you the headlines, very different truths going on. And if you're sitting there thinking, how did I miss all that? Well, you didn't. You just got handed the version they wanted you to see. And that is the game. They don't have to lie to you outright. They just have to lead you to the edge and let your mind do the rest. It is that easy. Fill in the blanks yourself. Make assumptions they lead you to. Run with the headline and forget to ask, what's behind it and what is the truth? But that's not what happens here, okay? Here we slow it down. We rip the headline wide open and show you the strings. And now you have a choice. You can scroll past the next story the same way as before, or you can stop and ask questions and see if the story adds up. Your opinions matter. They have value. Whose are you going to give yours to? Because really, once you learn to read between all these headlines, you stop being manipulated. You stop being manageable. And you start becoming dangerous to every system that relies on you being kept in the dark. That's why we have Headline Lies. Headline Lies, Fridays and Mondays. Everything else in between. And you've been listening to Headline Lies this Friday, and I am Alexis Knight. Stay sharp out there, guys. Ask the difficult questions and always demand the truth. Talk to you all the next time.